Hi there, and welcome to a new episode of Miss Evil Knits on Creativity. This is episode 3, and this episode will be all about inspiration. I'm going to talk about inspiration in probably several other episodes, but today I'm going to focus on where to find inspiration. Where to find this stimuli, something that triggers your creative mind. And it can be in obvious places, but also in not so obvious places. And one place where I find inspiration, it is out here, in the woods, in nature. And after I have been talking here, you will see some photos I took in a garden. It's a planted garden, a public garden of different flowers. And just by watching them really close up and see the different colors and the color combinations and the color shifting and how flowers uses the colors, I think that is so inspiring. And the flowers doesn't use colors to please the humans. They are mostly using the colors to attract insects and bees. And they have the colors so they stand out from the green that surrounds them. But still, I think there is so much to learn from flowers on how to use colors. I have one flower that I have been inspired by for quite a long time to make some kind of garment that represent the feeling I get when looking at this flower. And the flower is this one. It's called renfana in Swedish. I have no idea what it's called in English. Directly translated, renfana means like reindeer flag. But I don't know. I don't think that's an English name. I have always been inspired by this one. And some of you may think that, well, it's just to knit a yellow sweater with small of these this kind of small bubbles on, and then you have your renfana sweater. And there actually is one sweater that is constructed in that way by the Westrand sisters. But for me, this flower represents so much more. The feeling I get when looking at it is not only its yellow small buttons, but it is also, it's blooming when the summer is peaking. So it's peaking, it's at the top, and then it's actually going towards the end of the summer. It's very long lasting. The flowers last for long. So you know that as long as this flower is blooming, there is still summer. It has a very strong stem. It stands tall. It's proud. It has a beautiful green color on the leaves, and they grow together in small kind of, not bushes, but so it represents so much more to me than just the yellow kind of button flower. So I want to create a garment that represents the flower and what kind of meaning and what kind of feelings I get when I watch it. And And yet I haven't had, maybe not the knowledge, but I haven't found a way to really put this feeling into a garment. But that is something I'm still trying to do. And that is what this episode is about, to finding inspiration and how you can actually transform that into something. And that is what I call creativity. Getting inspiration from summer could be, or maybe should be, getting inspiration from a lot of colors that are unique for the summer. Because in the summer you have flowers in more or less the whole spectra of the color scheme. But another reflection I have is that many of us, I say, often is drawn to a more muted color scheme. That we are more inspired by the color of a dry leaf, of this kind of color, birch, and I think that is also very interesting, what we are looking for and why. Maybe we are not looking for and have the same purpose as the flowers have with their color, to attract bees. So it's different. Maybe you get a feeling of a flower, but you're not really there yet to wear something, a big garment in that color. But maybe still you have a feeling from that color and that flower that you want to create something to represent that feeling. Well, I will continue trying to figure out how to create a garment that represent the feeling, or represent actually this flower, renfana. And someday, maybe, I will find a way to get there. Inspiration, a really important part of the creative process, maybe the most important part. How you define inspiration is probably a little bit different depending on who you are. But if you look it up in a dictionary or on Wikipedia or anywhere else, it's often defined as a stimuli for the brain or for your thoughts, and not to be confused with or mixed up with motivation or courage. So stimuli for your thoughts, something that is stimulating you to come up with ideas that can trigger a thought or trigger a train of thoughts that leads up to a solution for a problem of yours or a need of yours. Inspiration. And you can get inspiration from various different places or contexts or situations, and sometimes you get the inspiration from the very obvious, and sometimes from a not so obvious situation when you least expect it. So maybe the best way of getting inspiration is not to look for it too eager, just let it come, and to be alert, to be awake, and realize that inspiration can come from various different situations. So instead of just focusing on the obvious, be ready to face the not so obvious and unexpected. Always expect the unexpected to give you inspiration. But today we are going to talk about different situations or different things that can give you inspiration, that can stimulate this train of thoughts that leads up to the idea that you want to realize in different ways. We will talk about getting inspiration from colors and also from books. And we will start with colors. When it comes to buying yarn, I am that kind of person that buy the yarn for the yarn, because I want the yarn, because the yarn talks to me, that I like the color or the feeling or something with it. And then I decide for a project. I very seldom first decide on a project and then choose the yarn. I probably did that in the beginning of my knitting career, that I went initially for a project or a garment that I wanted and following a pattern, and then I bought the yarn that was probably recommended for this project. But now I have developed to be the opposite. I want the yarn to speak to me and say and tell me what it wants to become. So I often have the yarn for quite some time before I actually do something with it. And when I see yarn in different colors, different qualities, I like it because it provides me with some kind of sensation, some kind of feeling, something I think. So what I want to do when I choose a project is to take that feeling, take that sensation, and try to materialize it, to realize it to something real. And that is like the creative process. How do I take this thought and make it real? But the inspiration part of it is actually to get this idea. What is it that I want to realize, to materialize, to come alive, to be something that initially can just be thought, to become something that you can actually touch. So the colors inspire me to feel different things that I want to create or realize that feeling. I am not that person who knits swatches and, you know, this little provlapp in Swedish. Many designers recommend you to knit a swatch, to wash it and to measure your gauge on it. I hardly ever do that, and I will explain in another episode. But sometimes I can knit this kind of swatch-like thing to see how a yarn actually looks like when it's knitted, and to see, do I want to knit this in stockinette? Do I need to put some texture in it? To test different colors, how do they look if I combine them? And for some time ago I started swatching my Nutiden yarn, and I'm a little bit lazy. So instead of doing individual swatches, I made one very long swatch. And the reason was for me just to get an idea how the yarn looked, how this particularly wool mix or wool blend and color actually looked when it was knitted, and knitted in stockinette and garter, to see, is it suitable for just as a plain stockinette project, or do I need or want to put some texture in it? And I found that very inspiring to just see, because some of the colors, it's difficult to see when it's on a skein or a plate. It's when you knit it that you can see how it would actually look like. So I thought I would just show you some of these. Initially I had a thought of trying to combine them in different ways, but after a while I just picked up some colors and started knitting. And yeah, maybe I will try to just continue all new colors that comes and add to it. What I do when I sit with this one, it is that I can just take two colors and see how do they look together. Is this a combination that inspires me, that talks to me, that get me some kind of idea that I want to knit, that I want to create, or that can actually enhance a feeling that I have connected to a yarn or to a color. And also, maybe there is a yarn that I haven't really, that isn't really talking to me yet. I bought it for some reason, and probably it talked to me then, but then it has been like in the shelf for a while. But when I knit it up, it can start talking to me again, and then you just have to listen and see what it wants to become. I think I have this color that is called Aquamarine, I don't have that much of it. But when I knitted it up, I realized that, wow, what a really nice color. Why didn't I get more of that one? And the same with, I think it's this one. Really delicate color with all these kind of small shifts in the color that you can't really see when it's in the skein, but when you knit it up, it starts talking to you and inspires you, or at least it inspires me to see what I want to make with that yarn, or what I want to combine it with. For example, these two, now they are ending up. And if you watch the episode from the last episode, you see that it was almost this combination that I bought some yarn in for have my summer knitting. So it stimulates your thought to take your idea a little bit further. And what I also find like a really nice way to just let the colors talk to you, speak to you, and just set your imagination running. It is these kind of small projects that actually encourage you to combine different colors. And this is also the beanie I showed you in the last episode, episode 2, that is called the Dip Dye beanie by Camilla Wad. That uses, I have used 3 colors, one beige, one light green, and one more greenish green, and knitted them in this kind of it's fade, and then you turn it inside out because it's knitted from the stockinette side, and then you turn it inside out, and the fade becomes even more effective, fadish. So I looked at my stash and saw what do I want to combine, and tried out what do I think can become a really nice fade and a nice effect. So I have this one. I made a darker one with different brownish, greenish colors. And then I have this one, that was the one I was knitting on in last episode. That is a little bit, not that, the colors are a little bit more contrast between, but I still think it becomes a really nice fade. And it's just this combination by this reddish brown together with a light pink and some grey. And that gives me this like, oh, I want to do some kind of color work with this. So it stimulates my thoughts on things that I want to make. So if you're stuck, just start experimenting with colors, with textures, with different yarns, just to come up with that idea, the sensation that you feel like, okay, this is what I want to try to make it happen, realize my idea into something that I can actually touch and wear. Other way you see colors is like flowers, of course, the greens, the colors that's in the nature. We are soon approaching the autumn, when all the different yellows and reds are starting to be seen in nature. And just bring in some leaves, combine them with different things, and see if it starts triggering your brain to think about what you can do to capture that feeling into a garment. Another way of getting inspired, at least for me, is by books. Put this one away. And it can be any kind of book, I think. Usually, you think about this ordinary knitting books. This is one example that is called Stickat till vardags by Erika Åberg. I think it's only available in Swedish. I'm not sure, I think. But it's a lovely book. It has a lot of different projects, and it's written in the way that you can mix and match. So you can take a color work from one pattern and put it into another, and some basic patterns that you can just elevate by adding texture or color work. So this is very nice, and there are many of these kind of books that contains not only patterns but also advice and tip on how to knit, and inspiration, the thoughts, compared to when you buy a pattern on, for example, Ravelry. It's many times often have some that the designer have space and possibilities to actually tell you more about his or her inspiration behind the garments, with more pictures, and yeah, I really like these kind of books. Maybe I don't knit that much from them, but I look through them for inspiration. So it could be like just a picture in somehow that just get me going and starting like, oh, I want to do something like that. And then you can find help in the book for, okay, how many stitches do I need for this or that, and so on. So this is a very good way for finding inspiration. Since my podcast now is not called Pick a Pattern and Knit It, it's called On Creativity, I am now talking about inspiration to actually create your own garment, to either create it from scratch or to mix with other designers' patterns and make your own. Not in order to become a designer and published designer, but to make your garment the way you want it. To take some inspiration, take some idea and make it happen. So if you feel like that you just want to knit someone else's pattern, then this is a perfect inspiration. You just look it through and pick a pattern. But also if you want to make your own version of something, then you can have this as a support and inspiration to stimulate your thoughts in what you're going to knit. Another way, or another book, or kind of book, because there's a lot of these kind of books, is a book where you don't really find any pattern or description of garment. But for example, this one, it has 150 different kind of just color work that you can use and put it into a garment of your own. And that is also, if you know that, okay, I have my basic pattern of a sweater or a hat or a sock or something, I want it to spice it up with some color work, then it's also a good idea to just get inspiration from a book like this, where you can find a lot of different, and you can find these books for like this color work, for texture, for lace. I have a few of them in my bookshelf that I look through them sometimes when I want to find a nice lace pattern or get some idea for a nice texture pattern, to get inspiration. Not always that I knit exactly what's in, but it just, okay, I see that, okay, this is also possible to do in a way. And you can find, when it comes to, for example, this kind of book, a combination of colors that can start your train of thoughts to get some inspiration in how you can create your garment. So these kind of books are maybe the more obvious book to find inspiration for knitting. But I also want to challenge myself in looking elsewhere for inspiration, and to take a knitting pattern, a knitting description, or like this color work description and put it into a garment that is, it's not that challenging because you are served a lot of it already. But taking from another book and take some kind of feeling you get from that and put it into, realize it into a garment, that is, I find it's a little bit more challenging. You need to have a little bit more, I don't know if you can call it difficult, but your fantasy and inspiration have to work a little bit harder to actually find ways to picture or to what do you call it? Realize, make it happen. To take that feeling all the way down to an actual pattern. And I found this beautiful book that is called Trollbunden. And I bought it at a museum that is called Prins Eugen, Valdemarsudde. And they had an exhibition about Swedish artist that is called John Bauer, that is quite famous for his pictures of trolls and other different creatures in nature. Let's see if I can find some very typical picture. See this kind of picture, and I got so inspired when I looked through this and trying to think about how can I use these pictures and the environment that you see in them and put it into a knitted garment. So challenging, because you cannot really just literally translate it into a garment. Like you take a picture and then you do color work from the picture. That is not what I want. I want to take the feeling I get when watching or looking at the picture and then try to take that feeling and put it into a garment. And that I find very interesting. And also this John Bauer, he has been inspired a lot about nature and different fairy tales or tales from Sweden and Scandinavia when he has painted these pictures. So it's like taking his inspiration a little bit further as well. That's inspiring me, and I see that that's a very big challenge to actually do that, and that challenge in itself is inspiring for me. And I found another book on the same theme. I saw it actually at the children's section in the bookstore, that is called Nordiska väsen, Nordic creatures, and it's pretty much the same theme. It has these different creatures, the skogsrå, for example. Something else that also captures this. You get some kind of a feeling from it that, yeah, it stimulates my thoughts to actually, yeah, to capture it into my knitting. Maybe in the way of getting some detail and quite literally translate it, or to get more of the sensation from it. So I can really recommend you to look at this kind of, I don't know what to call it, picture books with a lot of different pictures, either photographies, but I think most inspiring is to watch an artist, how that artist is actually translating his or her inspiration into a picture. Another kind of book that I get inspiration from is like these kind of guidebooks. This is a guidebook for a hiking path in the southern part of Sweden, or it's in Sörmland, south from the river Mälaren, south from Stockholm. And in this one, it's not that much pictures of something. It's more like something that actually is, picturing a feeling that if I walk on that path, what feeling do I have there? And by walking there, what kind of needs do I have? So what kind of garment do I need to make the most out of it? If I want to sit in that forest, what do I want to look like? What kind of garments do I want to wear? So that's another way you can actually find inspiration, to more look at, find situations where you can wear your garment, or find situations where you want to have a garment, and then think about, okay, what would that garment need to look like to fulfill my needs? Okay. I will talk a little bit about a garment that I designed and created based on just inspiration, and pretty much based on all these books in a way. And the picture I have in front of me, or the need I felt, it was to have a garment, and I saw myself or someone close to me sitting at a campsite out in the Swedish forest during spring or autumn, where it's a bit cold in the air, and sitting in front of a campfire in the evening. It's dark around, and sitting there just enjoying being out in the forest. It's silent and the fire is warming. So that was the situation that I wanted to create something for. Because when you're sitting in front of that fire, you get the warmth from the fire that warms the front of your body, your face, your legs. But when it's cold outside, you usually get cold on your back, your neck. And you don't want to wear something that risks getting into the fire when you are actually putting in more firewood. You want to be able to move around to go and collect more firewood. And it's something that you can just wrap around you to be warm. And it should be easy to put on and easy to take off. So that was the need I felt, that I want to design something that can fulfill this need. And when I was looking through this picture of trolls and nature and the translation, I looked at this picture in the beginning, where you see a troll, two trolls and a little girl, and the troll has some kind of mantle over his shoulders, and in many of the pictures the trolls have golden chains, jewelries around the neck. And I wanted to take that picture and use that as inspiration for this garment, to get a little bit of sensation of it's a troll sitting by the fire. And I gave the design the name Bergtagen, that translates taken by the mountain, and it's a way, an expression we use. It comes from like someone has been kidnapped by the trolls and taken to their mountain, to their big stalls inside the mountain where they live and keep all the gold. But it can also mean that you're actually captured by something, that you are not obsessed, but when you really love the forest or the nature or an area, that you are bergtagen, you are like, you call it, not hypnosed, but you are really taken by it and quite blind for things. It fills you up, so you are kind of mentally kidnapped by the forest. And what does it look like then? Here I have it, and I will put it on. And I must say that I am very happy with it. Just find how I get into it. So what I did was that I made an ordinary yoke sweater, and the pattern of the yoke is something that I just came up with myself, and I improvised a little bit on how much I should do the increases. And I wanted to have the pattern on the yoke to a little bit to remind about the gold, the chains of gold and jewelries. Not really up your face, but enough. I choose this green color, and the colorway is actually called Trollkors, and I thought that suits very well. But a green color just to remind about the forest. So I made this yoke, and instead of taking up or dividing for the arms, I just kept on going. And for me I don't really like knitting arms, or I kind of stop my projects when it comes to the arms, so I have a lot of armless projects. It was perfect. So just continue down knitting, and then I made short rows to get the back longer. So there is a difference between the front and the back, so that the back would actually warm my back, but in the front it will be just to my elbow almost, so I can actually work with my arms or hands without having it caught up in something. So I could put on more firewood on the fire, I can knit. My shoulders are warm when you have this stranded color work. It creates this double layer, so it's warmer up here, and it's warm in my neck and my back. And I also made a hood to make it a little bit more trollish, but also of course to warm my head and my neck in this way. So I really love it. You can put your arms in here to warm them. I really love it. I love how it turns out. I think that it captures the feeling in John Bauer's pictures. And yeah, I'm very happy to take this idea and translate it into a garment that is practical, looks nice, I think, and is very practical. So I can't wait for it to get colder out there, so I can go out in the hiking along the path in Sörmland, start a fire and look there, staying warm with my bergtagen and just enjoying myself and getting inspiration for more things to knit. That was what I have for this episode. I hope that you can find a lot of inspiration during the rest of this summer and during the autumn, beginning of the autumn. So go through your stash, experiment with it, knit up some swatches perhaps, go through your library and find inspiration. Start this train of thoughts that leads up to ideas, creative ideas that you want to realize. Capture a feeling and put it into a garment. Good luck, and I see you later. Bye bye.